In this section of the course, we're going to focus on pruning your citrus tree. And pruning is part art and part science, but if you follow my video and the printable worksheets, you will have no problem pruning your citrus tree. So why should I prune a citrus tree? Very simply, pruning citrus trees promote branch growth, tree growth, and fruit growth. Now, if you're uncomfortable pruning, again, feel free to send me a message, and I'm more than happy to walk you through that individually. Not only this, but if you just don't want to prune your fruit tree, that's okay. It will continue to grow and continue to bear fruit. It just may not be at a higher level that you would want. So let's focus on pruning citrus trees. What do we need to focus on? Step one, or idea number one, is never prune more than 20% of your tree a year. So we want to prune our citrus tree once a year, and we don't want to prune any more than about 20% of that tree per year. Step two, or idea number two, is we want to wait until our citrus tree is about this big, about 2 feet tall, before we start pruning. I typically don't recommend pruning a citrus tree under a foot because it's still growing and we could potentially harm it. Step three, or idea three, is the actual pruning of the citrus tree. We never want to prune a citrus tree that actually has fruit on it. We want to wait until the fruit is actually off the tree. If there's flowers, we also don't want to prune it. We want to prune it more in the dormant stages, and that's typically going to be in the months of February or March, no matter where you live. So again, I want to wait until February or March to prune my actual citrus tree. If by chance I have flowers or I have actual fruit on the tree, I would skip pruning for that year, or at least during that season. And so what I recommend is there's a couple things that I would actually prune off, and this is very simple, could only take you maybe 5 to 10 minutes. The first part of the tree we want to prune off is something that's called saplings. I don't have any on this tree, but saplings are really easy to identify. They are parts of the tree that are going to sprout from the bottom of the trunk. So they're not branches, they don't look like branches, they're going to be very close to the bottom of the trunk where the soil is. And really simply, we just want to prune your citrus tree. We want to cut it at a 90-degree angle where that sprout meets the trunk of the tree. So we want a 90-degree angle, and we want to do it where the actual sprout, or sometimes even branches, connect to the trunk of the tree. The second part that we want to actually prune of the actual citrus tree is going to be dead branches. These are very easy to identify. They're really hard wood. They're sometimes black or dark brown. They have no leaves on them. Those are dead wood. They're not benefiting your tree, and sometimes they're actually taking away nutrients that could go to other parts of the tree itself. The third part of our actual citrus tree that we want to make sure we're going ahead and pruning is any part that maybe isn't looking as nice as you would want. So if you want it to be shaped a certain way, you can prune it to be shaped that way. Typically with citrus trees, they follow a nice vase form, and so we want to make sure that they're forming the vase, and if we notice that there's any parts of the tree that are pointing inwards, we prune them. If they're pointing outwards or up in a weird direction, you can also prune them. Pruning them won't kill the tree as long as you stick within that 20% range. So again, to kind of recap, we want to prune any sprouts. Those are going to be parts of the tree that are coming out of the trunk near the ground. We want to prune any dead wood. It's not beneficial to your tree. We also want to prune any type of, in my opinion, any type of branch that's pointing inwards or maybe in a funny way outwards that would make the tree look a little bit funny. And if that's the case and you don't want to do it, it's not the end of the world. The two areas that I would not prune, and the first is going to seem very obvious, is if there's fruit or a flower on your tree, do not prune that. Do not prune that part because it will typically fall off and it could kill, that section of the tree. The second part is any type of green growth. And I do have some green growth on here. If it's green, that is a newer part of the tree, and we don't want to prune it. It's going to take a couple years for it to get flowers and grow and bear fruit. So in my opinion, pruning is not hard. It just takes a couple easy and quick steps. If you have problems or questions with it, feel free to send me a message. But your assignment today is very simple. It's deciding if you want to prune your actual citrus tree. I have several that I have never pruned and still get lots of fruit. I have several that I prune and get just, the same, if not more, fruit every single year. So if you decide you do want to prune your actual citrus tree, go ahead, practice. Remember, you can't kill your tree. Just prune no more than about 20% off of it. And again, 20%, you can kind of gauge it, but you don't want to take the whole tree down or take a lot of the leaves off or anything like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me.